All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to let Emma and Grace come up and remind you guys about your first test and review options and that kind of stuff. And then we're going to get ladies, y'all, if y'all don't mind, because we can't the sound system, so try to keep online. Yeah, you don't have to go in front of the camera, just close to the camera, so then the sound.
Okay.
You don't have to go in front of the camera.
Okay, so y'all's exam is next Wednesday, and we have reviews for you guys. It'll be on Tuesday at 5:30. Some of y'all are in the 310 as well. That will be on Mondays. Just a reminder that they're at the same time, just on different days.
Yes, and then we also posted our availability in the group meet. I'll be like in Bourgeois, you'll be on campus in Bourgeois. So if y'all just have like any questions or need more practice, you can come by during those hours.
And just send us a little text letting us know or whatever, and we'll make sure that we're where we said we would be.
And Emma, you sent some practice.
Yeah, so I sent a couple quizzes through y'all's Moodle. Did y'all get those? I think I saw them. Okay, yeah. They're working out for everybody, and we can go over those during the reviews too. I think I have a couple more that I can send at the end of this week once we go over a little more.
Don't come to me with those quizzes. That's for their internship and there. So you go to them to get those clarified, and then I can be here if there's if we need. All right, good. Thank you, ladies. All right, you guys. Let's first start off. Go to your Moodler, and I want you to go to this PowerPoint. Major muscles of the cervical PowerPoint. I have a student. She's in PT school now. A couple years ago, make these. Were both of you in class? That was a couple years ago. Did y'all have the PowerPoints when you took?
Yeah.
15? Very helpful, right? But what I wanted to do, though, is before we get into the PowerPoints, I wanted to reiterate muscle function is how the muscle pulls. What direction of motion does the muscle pull? That's what it does. The motions that it influences is because of the contractions, right? So that's so important. If I ask you the function of a muscle, it's just how does it pull? That's what makes something a flexion puller, a right lateral puller, a left transverse puller. But just because it pulls that way doesn't mean it's responsible for the motions. So the reason I'm setting that up is because take these with that grain of salt, that we're going to look at how these muscles pull in these directions of motions. But that doesn't mean these muscles are causing those motions. Example, if you lower your head down real slow, that's cervical flexion. But your sternocleidomastoids didn't cause that. Because gravity is trying to flex you. You don't need these muscles. You can't get your head down. Are we clear? So this is just to see direction of pull, not as a practice for, flexion, these must be these muscles, right? All right, so let's look at the sternocleidomastoids, sternum clavicular origins going to the mastoid process behind the ear. And this is how the right side is a right lateral bender, pulling right lateral. So you see that? So that would be about the AP axis, and it's pulling right ear to right shoulder. That's how it pulls. So if we need right lateral cervical benders, like if you were on your left side, gravity's trying to do this, I would need a puller on the right side of my AP axis. Now, this is the one that we and I say we, I'm included. This is the one that messes with us, how something on our right could be pulling us to the left transversely. So let's take a look at a visual. I tried to explain it with my high-tech cables last class. So let's take a visual. Does that make better sense? How the sternocleidomastoid on the right is trying to pull your right ear to your sternum. And in doing so, it's pulling you to the left transversely. And again, this will probably not be the last time I say it, but it's so important. What you feel when you stretch, what you feel on the right side is not your sternocleidomastoid. That's your erector spinae. We're going to learn about those today. That's your right erector spinae getting pulled across, and you feel this stretch, and you want to give that credit to this muscle. Okay? So these videos, these YouTube, Brian, start from the beginning, dinosaurs. These are great in your Moodle to show you direction of pull. Okay? Direction of pull. Now let's get to our sternocleidomastoid. So your circles, again, are a cross-sectional teaching tool to show you all the different functions of muscles in one picture. 3 dimensions in one picture. Showing literal pictures of muscles give us limited views of those 3 dimensions, as we talked about last class. Some of you may want to learn function with this. Just literally, this muscle pulls this way, this muscle pulls that way. I have no problem with that. I just want you to get right answers. So this first slide is me basically just telling you the functions of the muscles that we're going to go over. Some of you, when I lift this up after sternocleidos up on the board, some of you may want to say, my cervical flexion group, my cervical flexors, right sternocleidomastoid, left sternocleidomastoid. My right lateral cervical benders, right sternocleidomastoid, right erector. Some of you may want to do it like that. And some of you may say, oh, I just see it better, just one circle. I see where everybody sits, and then I can see all the different functions of those muscles in it. I don't care. I just want us to understand how the muscles pull in specific directions of motion. Okay? All right, today we're going to get into right and left erectors. So the important thing about the erector spinae groups is individually you got a bunch of them. So to make class easier for this level, we're just going to call the erector set on the right side of the spine the right erector set, and the left side of the spine the left erector set. Okay? So you got a bunch of them. You have to have a lot. You can't hold if giving you analogies. But when we're first born, like we don't stand up, right? It takes time to get our muscles to be able to stand up all day and erect our spine all day because gravity's trying to flex me all day and gravity's trying to flex me all day. You can't hold your shoulder out for 10 minutes because your deltoid and your supraspinatus is going to get tired. But we have to keep our spine extended all day because in the present, so it takes a lot of help. You can't rely on one muscle. They have a lot of muscles there to help dissipate the force over levels of the skyscraper. Okay? What these muscles do have in common, though, is they arise more towards the spinous process and go out further away. So that creates what you're going to see, this kind of transverse obliquity, kind of this oblique curve to pulling the trunk and pulling the cervical. So in other words, it's kind of easy to see how, well, if it's on the right side of the spine, it's going to be pulling right lateral. Kind of easy to see, just like the sternos. And it's also easy to see, well, if they're behind the spine, they're going to be pulling in a direction of extension. Kind of easy to see. The harder one is the transverse. The harder one is the transverse. So that's why I try to use different views to see the transverse. So let me try to find a good. Okay. So what I want you to notice is kind of if we looked at the sternocleidos as right side pulling the right ear forward, thus making me want to look to the left, the erector is in the back, pulling transversely right ear back. Look at it. Pulling close to my right ear, posteriorly. Practical example. You're in trouble and I always say my mom because she always pulled my ear. But if my mom takes my right ear and pulls it forward, she wants to make me look to the left. But if she was behind me and I didn't know she was there and she grabbed my right ear and pulled back, she'd make me want to look to the right. Does that make sense? So the right erector is a right transverse puller and the left erector is a left transverse puller. Bless you. Right and lefts are extension pullers. The right side in the frontal plane, right side, right ear, right shoulder, right lateral. Left side, left ear, left shoulder, left lateral. But in the transverse plane, they're pulling posteriorly because that's how they cross. So the right is going to pull in a direction of right transverse, and the left is going to pull in the direction of left transverse. The erector spinae, guys, again, in graduate school, you're going to learn about all these different rotaries and spinalis, and there's a lot of them. So for this class, we're just going to group the group, and we know that they don't cross. It's like Game of Thrones fans. It's like the wall. You don't cross over. No muscles cross the spinous processes. The stuff on the right stays on the right. The stuff on the left stays on the left. So both erector, extension puller, right erector, right lateral puller, left erector, left lateral, right erector, right transverse, left erector, left transverse. Let's look at our circles. Cross-sectional view. This is everything we need to know. The neck. That's an odd shaped neck. This is the anterior, this is the posterior, this is the right side, this is the left side. So basically, this is it's easier for you to see it flat on your table because then it literally represents your neck. But I can't show you here. I have to rotate it to show you there. Make sense? Okay. Our neck can move in all three planes, can bend side to side, can bend forward and back and twist. The front and back bend is about our neck's bilateral axis. That's at the spine. Muscles that cross anterior are going to be flexion pullers, and muscles that cross posterior are going to be extension pullers. The anterior crossing muscles are going to be our right sternocleidomastoid and our left sternocleidomastoid. These are agonistic muscles. They pull in the same direction, only in the sagittal plane. They're teammates because they both sit in the front of class. Their class. Now, they are not the same in terms of sitting on the sides of class. Like they both sit in the front, Well, one sits on the right side, the other sits on the left side. So when we look at side to side pull, that's about an anterior posterior axis. And they do not have the same pull side to side. The right's pulling right lateral, the left's pulling left lateral. They are antagonistic pullers in the frontal plane. Agonistic pull in the sagittal, antagonistic in the frontal. So far, so bad. Let's look at the erector spinae. We have the left erector spinae and we have the right erector spinae. Both of these muscles sit in the back of class. They have the same pull sagittally, extension pullers, but they have different pulls frontally. Right's pulling right ear, right shoulder, left's pulling left ear, left shoulder. I would not position the neck to stretch these muscles the same in the frontal plane. I would do that in the sagittal. I'd flex if I want to stretch both of them. But if I wanted to stretch the left erector, I wouldn't bend to the left. I would bend to the right. Because they don't pull the same way in the frontal. So far, so good. Now let's go transverse. That's why I foxed them. If I were to, let's say this basketball is like my head. Flexion, extension, right lateral, left lateral, right and left transverse. If I were to try, I'm not a globetrotter, but if I was trying to spin the basketball, I would want to put what we call a force couple onto the spin, meaning where my physical educators are people that are going to work with children or work with kids. If you went outside to play on the merry-go-round with the kiddos, they would have a better time on that merry-go-round if there were two adults spinning the merry-go-round. And you wouldn't put both adults on the same side. You would put one adult on one side of the merry-go-round and the other adult on the other side. And one of you would give a spin or a force in this direction, but the other person on the other side would give a similar rotational force, but they would pull in a different linear direction. That's called a force couple. Here's the merry-go-round. Adult 1 is pulling here. Adult 2 is pulling there. Two different linears, but the same spin. If I was trying to spin the basketball as fast as possible, I would want one hand on the front right and another hand on the back left, and I would use a force couple to spin the ball transversely, and my front and back would cancel each other out sagittally. My right and my left would cancel out each other frontally, and they can work together to efficiently spin. That's how your right sternocleidomastoid works with your left erector spinae to efficiently turn your head. A right-sided muscle, a front right, works with a back left to spin your basketball efficiently. And a front left works with a back right to spin your basketball efficiently. Meaning, the right sternocleidomastoid is going to work with the left erector to spin the merry-go-round to the left. They cancel out sagittally, cancel out frontally, and summate transversely. In other words, you're in big trouble because you got someone pulling on your right ear forward and your left ear back. That make sense? So therefore, your left sterno is going to work with the right erector transversely. All right, this is so what on this? How many groups are we going to have for the cervical vertebrae? This was last week. How many groups? How many groups of muscles? How many teams? 2 sagittal, 2 frontal, 2 transverse. How many is that? 6. I'm going to have cervical flexors. Right sternocleidomastoid, left sternocleidomastoid. Who are my cervical flexors? These 2 muscles. Bless you. I could memorize this. I could write that, or I could see it. Who are my cervical flexors? My right and my left sternocleidomastoid. This is the same thing. Who are my cervical extensors? Right erector spinae, left erector spinae. You could write this on your test. You could have it memorized. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be able to figure out when it's needed. That's 310 stuff. Do I need my erector? Do I need my flexors? But in terms of remembering function, you can write this down, or you can see it right here. These are the extensors. Who are my right lateral cervical benders? There's a lot of lines here. Right sternocleidomastoid, right erector spinae. Differentiate this. Guys, you can memorize that. You can put it on the test. Who are my right laterals, right erector spinae, right sternocleidomastoid, or you can see it. It's right here. The muscles on the right side are right lateral pullers. On the test, left lateral cervical benders. You can memorize it. Left sternocleidomastoid, left erector spinae, or you can see it. Who are my right transverse cervical rotators? Left sternocleidomastoid, right erector spinae. You can memorize it and write it down, or you can see it. Different learning styles. Who are the left transverse cervical rotators? Right sternocleidomastoid, left erector spinae. Let me give you the pros and the cons, because at the end of the day, that's all I'm here to give you. Make up your own mind. You have your own learning style. I just want correct answers. The positive about learning all these groups, right? Maybe your brain just doesn't see visual. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be aware. You're being redundant with this strategy. In other words, well, this one's with this one, but now this one's with that one, and then this one was with that one, but now this one's with this one. See what I'm saying? Versus one picture that tells me all of this stuff. Who are my flexion pullers? These muscles. Who are my extension pullers? These muscles. Who are my right laterals? These muscles. Who are my left laterals? Those muscles. Who are my right transverse pullers? Those muscles. Who are my left transverse pullers? In addition, pros and cons. On the test, I might say, tell me all of the functions of the right sternocleidomastoid, meaning, tell me all the different ways it pulls. If you go this route, which I have no problem with, now you're going to be sifting through data. Okay, right sternocleidomastoid, it's a cervical flexor. Okay, right, no, left. Okay, not there. No, it's not there. And oh, right sternocleidomastoid, left transverse. Okay, no, not here, not here. Right, oh, yeah, right here. See what I'm getting at? Versus, what does the right sternocleidomastoid do? It sits in the front, it's a flexion puller. It sits on the right side, it's a right lateral. And it's trying to spin the merry-go-round to the left. bang, all three functions in 1 second because you see how it pulls. How would I stretch the right sternocleidomastoid in the sagittal? Well, it pulls into flexion, so I'd have to extend the cervical vertebra. How would I stretch the right sternocleidomastoid in the frontal? Well, it pulls to the right lateral, so I need a bend to the left lateral. And how would I stretch the right sternocleidomastoid in the transverse? Well, it pulls to the left, so I need to move to the right. All of that information from one visual. Pros and cons. Again, I'm never going to ask you, all right, guys, for points, draw your circle. No, but it's a cheat code for function because it gives us 3 dimensions in a 2-dimensional picture. Does that make sense? So on your test, you may have everything in your brain. That's cool. Just want right answers. On your test, I may hand out your paper for you to get started, and you may write all of this stuff. Awesome. I just want right answers. Or on your test, you may take 30 seconds to just draw that. Awesome. I just want right answers. Does that make sense? All right, let's do some practice. First of all, not fair. Does anybody have any clarification questions before we move on? Did I do a well enough job of explaining how all this is telling us this just in one picture? Because it literally shows us how the muscles cross. Sometimes pictures are hard to see how those muscles cross. This is the cheat code. And as you get into grad school, you will have more muscles added to the story. All you got to do is place them in your circle. That's all you got to do. All right, guys, let's look at our first practice. Let's look at some stretching concepts. And so for these questions, we're always going to go left to right, just for consistency. And I want you to identify the muscles being stretched in the top left 2 pictures, the top right 2 pictures, and the bottom. Now, we're going from to. Or, to get extra practice, you can literally just say, what am I stretching on the picture on the left? What am I now stretching on the picture on the right? So we can really cover all of our bases. Okay? Take some time with this. Discuss it. Maybe someone next to you is doing circles and they can explain it better than what I did. But it is getting feedback from students previously. This is such a cheat sheet for functional muscles. But again, I'm never going to make you do it. I just want right answers. So this is on Moodle. These are our stretching practices. And then obviously we're going to do some muscular practices as well with contractions and movements. So let's do it like that. We'll take each picture as an independent question. What am I stretching? Top left, and then move to the right. Each position is its own question. And remember, how we use our verbiage to understand stretch. What is your position? Where are you at? And if you know where you're at, you can use elimination to say, well, I'm not stretching muscles that pull that way. I have to be stretching muscles that pull the other way. Process. Process, process, process. So see it, so like you see her white sternum and it's like really popping out. So you're like, that's all about. Sure, it's like, it's like really small verbiage. That's weird. That's weird. What's cool is the actions line. Who you think you like? It's not towards final, so actually, what group are we stretching top left? Remember, go with group first, then go with muscles, because group has pull in its name. She's extended, so we're stretching cervical flexors. That's how I want you to do it, because we'll decrease the odds of making a mistake. Once you identify the group, hey, I'm stretching flexors. Then you follow up with who are the flexion pullers. And you can either use this tool, for my flexion pullers are going to be my anterior pulling muscles. Or you can say my flexion pullers are these muscles. And maybe you can see two-dimensional pictures and see them, but remember, two-dimensional pictures don't show three dimensions whole. That'll come with time. But two-dimensional pictures of muscles don't show the difference. The next picture, she's flexed, so she has to be stretching extensors. Who are the extension pulls? Right and left erector spinae. Right and left erector spinae. Yes, sir. Yeah, we're just doing stretch. Yeah, we're looking at that muscle that you stretch. So if you go to the chest, you're stretching the back muscles. Those would be extension pulls. We call them extensors. Yeah. Good question. Good clarification. Let's do the bottom next, because that's the easier one before we go to the twisting. So what's the position bottom left? Left lateral, right? Left ear, left shoulder. So she'd be stretching right lateral benders. This is where your circle or your list or your visuals, I don't care, just want right answers. Who are the muscles that are on the right side of the neck? You can visually see them. Or you can memorologically see them. Don't care. Right lateral trunk benders, right lateral. See, this is the problem with my dyslexia. Right transverse, left lateral, right lateral. See, it took me forever to find the darn thing. But I can see them really quick here. That's what works for me. I'm not saying it has to work for you. Right ear, right shoulder. We're not stretching right lateral, we're stretching left lateral. In the test, I just want you to know 310, I just want you to identify right or left lateral. Now we know where those muscles fit those groups. That's all it is. It's just the next step. So if I'm stretching left laterals, I just want you to be able to tell me, hey, those are these muscles. Or these muscles. It's the same thing. They're the same muscles. All we're saying, first picture, stretching flexors, stretching flexors. Second picture, stretching extensors, stretching extensors. Bottom left, stretching right laterals, right laterals. Bottom left picture, stretching lefts, stretching lefts. So far, so good. Now let's do transverse. The reason I have this process is because some of these things are not easy to see. But the process stays the same. Top left of the top right. She's looking to her left. She's looking to her left. Does it make sense that if she's looking to her left, she wouldn't be stretching muscles that pull to the left transversely? She'd be stretching muscles that pull to the right transversely. Does that make sense? So now we got to say, well, who pulls right transversely? I can see it here. These are the right transverse pullers. I'm stretching these. Or I go to my list, right transverse cervical rotation, they're the same muscles. Make sense? She's looking to the right. She's not stretching right transverse pullers, she's stretching left transverse pullers. I can see them by seeing this or this. It's the same muscles. In other words, I was going to do this at the end so that I didn't make a mess of the circle. But if I need cervical flexors, if I need cervical extensors, if I need right laterals, if I need left laterals, and if I need left transverse, and if I need right transverse. And guys, I think this is elegant. This is beautiful. This is really cool. If I need both of my sternocleidomastoids, like if I'm laying down with my head off of the desk, isn't it cool that both muscles that pull me anterior or sagittal cancel out frontal and cancel out transverse? They can neutralize frontal, neutralize transverse to just pull me sagittal. And if I'm on my left side and I need right lateral, I have an anterior and a posterior canceling out sagittally and also canceling out transverse and working together to pull laterally. And when I need transverse pullers, they can cancel out sagittally and cancel out frontally and work together on the merry-go-round. That's super cool. That's really cool. Right. So on the test, you're going to have to tell me which muscles are being stretched. Fair enough. On the test, you're going to have to tell me specific functions of muscles. I might say, what's the function of the left erector spinae? And then I might say, in all three planes, I might say sagittal, I might say frontal, I might say transverse. Left erector sagittally is an extensor. Frontally left lateral, transversely left transverse. I might say, what group does the left erector spinae work with the left sternocleidomastoid? In other words, what team are they both on? They're on the left lateral team. Does that make sense on that kind of question? They're agonistic pullers only in the frontal plane. They don't pull the same sagittally and they don't pull the same transversely. Function is regardless of contraction. Meaning, your cervical extensors still pull into extension even when they are allowing you to flex eccentrically. They still pull. So if I say the right and left erector spinae are working eccentrically, what group are they in? What agonistic group are they in? Well, it doesn't change. It doesn't make them flexors. Even though they're allowing flexion through eccentrics, they're still doing that by pulling into extension. Does that make sense? That would be like saying if you were doing curls and you let the dumbbell down, all of a sudden your bicep became an extensor. Does that make sense? Your flexion puller is allowing extension through eccentrics, but it's still pulling the same way as if you were doing flexion or as if you were isometric. Still pulling the same. It's about how they pull. Yes? Practice. We're going to do contraction practice starting Wednesday, but function practice. On the test, if I say, what are the functions of the left sternocleidomastoid? Give me three functions of the left sternocleidomastoid. Sagittally, it's a flexor. It's a flexion puller. Frontally, it's a left lateral puller. And transversely, it's a right transverse puller. I think, and let me know if this was similar to you guys, I think that's probably the biggest trap is that you can have a left lateral and a right transverse. Yeah. If I'm pulling my left ear down, it's left lateral. If But if I'm pulling my left ear forward, it's right transverse. Big deal. That's why I like to think of the transverse plane as PE, as going out and playing on the merry-go-round. On the test, if I ask you specific functions and specific planes, like what are the functions of the right erector spinae frontally and transversely? Frontally, it's a right lateral. Transversely, it's a right transverse. Because that's how it pulls. Reminder, one of the reasons we try to bring functions of muscles always back to pull is so that we can do things with them, that they can be useful. If I didn't say or communicate the right erector is a right transverse, how am I going to remember how to stretch it? If I don't remind myself how it pulls, how do I know that I need to twist to the left if I want to stretch it on the right? Does that make sense? That's why we're constantly talking about pull. Guys, do y'all have anything to add or?
We just say, yeah, just continue to go the step-by-step process for each one and try not to like skip it. So I think that's when it can be.
We are also validate if you choose, but you can be honest. It gets easier as you practice. Like I can understand this is like crazy. Oh, it's crazy stuff. You're not going to see this in textbooks because it's crazy, but it's useful. It's a teaching tool that works for some students who can visually see how these muscles are pulling based off of how they cross the specific joints. It's a cheat sheet because it allows us to give 3 dimensions in a 2-dimensional picture. But I don't care. If you do this, that's fine. You're just going to have to sift through the data. So in other words, what does the left sternocleidomastoid do? Left sternocleidomastoid, the cervical flexor. Left sternocleidomastoid is a left lateral cervical bender. Left sternocleidomastoid is a right transverse cervical rotator. Nothing wrong with that. What does the left sternocleidomastoid do? Cervical flexor, left lateral cervical bender, right transverse cervical rotator. Because I just look at it and see. Make sense? Any questions? Clarifications? So what I would love for you guys to do is try to practice try to practice on your own. You can do things like manual muscle tests. I mean, that's the whole point of manual muscle tests. Like if someone had an MRI that came back and there was something wrong with the left sternocleido, you kind of know how it has to pull for you to be able to, well, it's a flexion puller, so I need to apply an extension force. Don't let me push you here. Don't let me push you here. Don't let me twist you there. I mean, very practical stuff here. But practice. Who am I working? Right lateral benders. Who are those muscles? Right sterno, right erector. Who am I working? Left laterals. Who are those muscles? Left sterno, left erector. Trying to twist me to the right. I need muscles that are pulling to the left. Who are those muscles? Right sternocleidomastoid, left erector. Practice. And the more you practice, not only the more consistent you'll get with your answers, but the more efficient you'll get with your answers. And it'll get quicker. Smooth is fast. Smooth is fast. All right, guys, y'all have a good day.